That's the truth of working in a place like the Red Veil. You learn to move through the bar like smoke, present but unnoticed. My hands polish crystal glasses that catch light from chandeliers I could never afford. Mix cocktails smoother than anything I've ever tasted. And serve bottles that cost more than my monthly rent. The establishment sprawls across 2 floors of Manhattan's Diamond District. All velvet and dark wooden mirrors that reflect a world I can barely afford to touch. Eric Sozanoff himself is a shadow I've learned to predict. I hear his accent cutting through conversation, measured, deliberate, and known to be elsewhere. I catch glimpses of him through the crowd, dark hair slicked back, tailored suits that move like liquid, and eyes the color of winter ice that never quite land on me. He holds meetings in the private booths with men who speak in Russian and leave through back exits. I clean up after them, wipe down tables still wet with vodka, and collect abandoned ashtrays. I don't ask questions. That's not my job. My job is to disappear. The only constant in this carefully ordered existence is Connor. My brother lives in our cramped Bronx apartment, 16 years old, with our mother's bright eyes and none of my hardness. He takes medications that keep his lungs functioning and goes to appointments that keep hope alive. And every night when my shift ends, I ride the subway back to him alone. 2 bedrooms, thin walls, neighbors who blast music at 2 a.m. But it's ours. Well, rented, barely afforded. I work the extra shifts when they're offered because I need every dollar. Because $53,000 in debt doesn't disappear on its own. Because my father gambled away our savings before disappearing entirely. Because Connor's illness requires treatments that insurance calls not medically necessary and doctors call essential. And the bills kept coming long after Dad's final goodbye. I signed payment plans I'll be honoring into my 40s. Accepted interest rates that should be criminal and learned to survive on energy drinks and cheaper hope. So I mix drinks, I smile, I stay quiet, I accept overtime without complaint. Wednesday night, the grandfather clock near the kitchen chimes midnight as I finish wiping down the bar. My feet ache from standing on tile for 9 hours straight, and my shoulders protest when I reach up to turn off the last pendant light. December in New York means darkness falls early, and through the tall windows, I watch snow begin to dust the sidewalk. Are you heading out? Marco, the line cook, appears from the kitchen, pulling on his coat. He smells like garlic and grilled meat from whatever he prepared for the VIP section. Yeah, long night. He studies my face with the particular concern only regulars can manage. You look dead on your feet. I'm fine. You always say that. He hesitates at the service entrance. Want me to wait? Walk you to the subway. I wave him off. Go. Your wife's waiting. The next payment is due in 2 weeks, and I'm short by $400. Outside, the snow has graduated from dusting to proper flakes. I pull my coat tighter and lock the heavy back door behind me, double-checking it like Eric's head of security taught me. The alley behind the Red Veil stretches toward the street, narrow and dark except for a single security light that flickers like it's considering giving up entirely. For blocks. That's all it is. For blocks from the Red Veil to the 47th Street station. I've walked it hundreds of times, usually with other staff, sometimes alone when closing runs late. The neighborhood is supposed to be safe. This is Eric's territory after all. And I've heard the whispers about what that means. Protection, order, rules enforced by men in expensive coats. Tonight, Marco had texted his wife before we finished closing. Some issue with their daughter's fever that had him swearing in Italian and apologizing profusely. Go, I told him. I'll be fine. You sure? It's 4 blocks. I watched his taillights disappear around the corner, then pulled my hood up against the snow and started walking. The street was quieter than usual. Most businesses had already closed, their windows dark except for security lights that cast everything in shades of blue and shadow. My boots crunched through fresh powder, leaving tracks that would be covered within minutes. I kept my head down, focused on the familiar route, counting the landmarks I passed like a mantra: the jewelry wholesaler, the watch repair shop, the 24-hour deli with the neon sign that never quite lit fully. 3 blocks down, 1 to go. The alley appeared on my right, a black mouth between 2 buildings. I'd passed it 1,000 times without thinking. But tonight, 3 figures stepped out from the darkness, blocking the sidewalk ahead. I stopped, heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. "Evening," one of them said. Slavic accent, maybe 35, with a shaved head and a leather jacket that looked too expensive for the weather. His companions were broader, silent, one on each side. "Evening," I managed, moving to step around them. The first man shifted, staying in my path. "Where do you head in such a hurry?" "Home." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Excuse me." "Hold on now." He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. Just being neighborly. Making conversation. The other 2 moved to flank me, cutting off escape routes. My stomach dropped. "I don't want trouble," I said. "No trouble." The first man held up his hands, palms out. "Just need your bag and that phone in your pocket." Nice and easy. My mind raced through options. Scream, but who would hear over the traffic? Run, but where, with 3 of them? Fight against men twice my size? I pulled my crossbody bag over my head with shaking hands and held it out. He took it, rifled through quickly, and pocketed my wallet. Then he looked at me expectantly. "Phone." I reached into my jacket, fingers numb, and handed over my cell, my lifeline, my alarm for Connor's medications, my connection to the only family I had left. "Good girl." He examined the phone. Then his eyes landed on my shirt collar where my coat hung open. The Red Veil's logo is embroidered discreetly on black fabric. His expression changed. "Wait a second." He stepped closer, snow catching in his stubble. "You work at that bar. The Russian's place." Fear spiked cold through my veins. "No." "Don't lie." He grabbed my collar, yanking me forward. "I know that logo. You work for Sozanov, don't you?" "I'm just a bartender," I said desperately. "I don't know anything. I just make drinks." "Please." He looked at his companions. "She works for the Russian." The taller man's expression changed. Something dark crossed his features. "Just a bartender," the first man laughed, but it was ugly. "Well, just a bartender. You're going to deliver a message for us." The first punch came from nowhere, catching me across the temple. Pain exploded white-hot behind my eyes, and I staggered backward. Before I could recover, hands grabbed my arms, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. I tried to scream, but a palm clamped over my mouth. "This is what happens," the first man said close to my ear, "when people think they own our streets. When they think their Russian boss can push us out." The second hit caught my ribs. Then another to my stomach. I stopped counting after the 4th. Stopped trying to fight. Just curled inward and prayed for it to end. Someone grabbed my hair, yanked my head back, forcing me to look at the leader. "Tell Sozanov," he said slowly, "the Chechens remember the Avtorkanov brothers. Tell him the old debts come due." His fist connected with my face, and everything went black. I don't know how long I was unconscious. Could have been seconds or minutes. When awareness returned, I was lying on frozen pavement, snow melting beneath me, mixing with something warm I realized was my own blood. The men were gone. My bag was gone. My phone was gone. I tried to stand, but my ribs screamed in protest. I tried to breathe deep, but something inside felt wrong, sharp. My face throbbed with a pulse of its own, and when I touched my cheekbone, my fingers came away red. "Get up. Connor needs you. Get up." I made it to my knees, then my feet, leaning heavily against the brick wall. 4 blocks suddenly felt like 4 miles. But I had to move. I had to get home. Had to make sure Connor took his evening meds. The walk to the subway is a blur of pain and snow and strangers who looked away. The train ride passed in waves of nausea. And, somehow, impossibly, I made it to our apartment building, climbed 3 flights of stairs that felt like 30, and fumbled my key into the lock with shaking hands. Connor was asleep on the couch, TV flickering. I stood there for a moment, just watching him breathe, grateful he didn't wake up. Didn't see me like this. In the bathroom, I faced the mirror. The woman staring back was a stranger. My left eye swollen nearly shut. Cut across the cheekbone. Split lip. Bruises already blooming purple along my jaw. When I lifted my shirt, more bruises painted my ribs in shades of violence. I turned on the shower as hot as I could stand it and sat on the floor of the tub, letting water and blood swirl down the drain. Let myself shake. Let myself cry where Connor couldn't hear. But only for 10 minutes. Then I got up. Found ice packs in the freezer. Swallowed expired painkillers from Connor's old prescription. At 3 a.m., I walked to the 24-hour CVS 6 blocks away and bought concealer 3 shades too light because it was all they had. Back home, I practiced in the mirror. Practiced my smile. I practiced holding my ribs so the pain didn't show. Practiced breathing shallow so nothing caught. I'm fine, I said in my reflection. Just fine. By 9 a.m., I was dressed in a fresh black shirt, my hair pulled back to hide the worst of it, my face painted with enough concealer to fool someone who wasn't really looking. Connor stirred as I was leaving. You okay, Ray? You look tired, I finished. Didn't sleep well. I'll be home by 6. Text me if you need anything. I kissed his forehead and left before he could ask more questions. The subway ride back to Manhattan felt eternal. Every bump sent fire through my ribs. Every jostle made my head throb. But I kept my face neutral, my expression blank, my invisibility intact. 4 blocks from the station to the Red Veil. The same route I'd walked last night. The alley where it happened was empty now, just a strip of pavement and snow stained with something dark that might have been blood. Might have been mine. I used my key for the service entrance and slipped inside. The bar wouldn't open for another hour. I had time to prepare, to set up, to disappear into routine before anyone else arrived. Except Eric Sozanov was already there. He stood at the main bar, dressed in a charcoal suit despite the early hour, an espresso cup in his hand. His eyes lifted when I entered, and I felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. Riley, he said, his accent curling around my name. You're early. Yes, Mr. Sozanov. I kept my head angled, letting my hair fall forward. I'll just come here. It wasn't a request. My heart stuttered, but I crossed the floor toward him, every step measured, every breath controlled. I stopped a careful distance away, not quite meeting his eyes. Closer. I took another step. Then another. He set down his cup and turned to face me fully. In the morning light streaming through the windows, there was nowhere to hide. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His eyes, ice blue and absolutely focused, traveled across my face with surgical precision. He didn't touch me. I didn't need to. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Riley, he said finally, his voice dropping to something quieter than I'd ever heard from him. Something that somehow felt more dangerous than shouting. Who did this to you? And in that moment, I understood 3 things with perfect clarity. 1, I was no longer invisible. 2, Eric Sozanov had just made my pain his business. 3, by sunrise, someone was going to learn what a mistake that was. The last customer leaves at 11:47 p.m., a regular who tips exactly 15% and never makes eye contact. I lock the front door behind him and flip the sign to close, then stand for a moment in the sudden quiet. The Red Veil always feels different after hours, like a theater after the audience has gone home. All that remains is the set and the props and the lingering smell of expensive liquor. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Connor, when are you coming home? Need you to sign my permission slip for the field trip. I text back with tired fingers. An hour maybe. Sorry. Long night. It's cool. Just don't forget. 3 dots appear, then disappear, then appear again. Finally, love you. Love you too. Take your meds. I pocket the phone and survey the damage. Glasses line the bar like soldiers, some with lipstick prints, others with nothing but melted ice. Napkins scatter the floor like confetti. Someone spilled red wine on the leather booth in the corner. I'll need a special cleaner for that. I start with the glasses, running them through the industrial washer in batches. The machine hums like a sleeping giant, familiar and almost comforting. While it works, I wipe down the bar, collect abandoned napkins, and right an overturned chair. Marco left the kitchen spotless as usual, but I double-checked anyway. Health inspectors don't announce their visits. The wine stain takes longer than I expected. I'm on my knees scrubbing when my phone buzzes again. Connor sent a photo of himself with his inhaler, captioned, "See? Responsible." I smiled despite the ache in my shoulders, despite the exhaustion settling into my bones like sediment. He's the reason I do this. The reason I stay invisible, stay safe, stay employed. By the time I finish, it's 12:30. I do a final walkthrough, checking that everything is locked, lights off, cash drawer secured in the safe. My reflection catches in the mirror behind the bar, dark circles under my eyes, hair falling out of its ponytail, uniform wrinkled from 9 hours of constant movement. Tomorrow I'll do it all again. I grab my coat and bag from the employee closet and head for the back exit. The alley smells like it always does, winter rain mixing with garbage from the dumpster, something metallic I try not to think about too hard. The security light flickers overhead, casting everything in unstable shadows. I hear footsteps behind me. My hand freezes on the door handle. Probably just Marco coming back for something he forgot. Or one of the dishwashers taking a smoke break. It's nothing. It's always nothing. I tell myself this as I step into the alley. I tell myself this as 3 figures emerge from the shadows. I tell myself this right up until the moment I realize I'm wrong. They don't rush. That's what I remember most clearly later. How they moved with the patience of men who knew I had nowhere to go. The one in front is broad-shouldered, maybe 40, with a face that's seen too many winters. His companions flank him like bookends, one tall and lean, the other built like he moves furniture for a living. All 3 wear dark coats that blend into the alley's shadows. "Evening," the leader says. His accent is thick, Eastern European. Not Russian, something harder at the edges. I clutch my bag tighter. "Evening. Long shift." He takes a step closer. Casual. Conversational. "I'm just heading home." My voice sounds steadier than I feel. "Excuse me." The lean one moves to block the alley's exit. The other circles behind me. Professional. Coordinated. "This isn't random. You work here." The leader gestures at the Red Veil's back door. "At this bar?" "Yes, but I don't." "For Sozanov?" My blood turns to ice. "I'm just a bartender. I don't know anything about." "Yes or no?" His voice sharpens. "You work for the Russians?" The truth catches in my throat. Lying seems more dangerous than honesty. "Yes." He nods, like I've confirmed something he already knew. "Good. Then you deliver a message for us." Before I can process his words, pain explodes across my face. The blow comes from the side, professional, measured, not wild or angry, just efficient. I stagger, and hands grab my arms from behind, locking them in place. "Wait," I try to say, but the second punch cuts me off. Ribs. Then my stomach. Each hit was placed with terrible precision. I try to scream, but the one holding me clamps a hand over my mouth. His palm smells like cigarettes and motor oil. My legs give out, but they hold me upright, keep me positioned for the beating. "This is what happens," the leader says, circling to face me, "when your boss thinks he owns this city. When he thinks his money buys him everything." Another hit. Another. I lose count. "Stop fighting. Just wait for it to end." They let me drop. The pavement is cold and wet against my cheek. Snow mixing with something warm, my blood, I realize distantly. The leader crouches beside me. Close enough that I can see the scar across his knuckles, the gray threading through his beard. "You tell Sozanov," he says slowly, making sure I hear every word through the ringing in my ears. "The Chechens remember. Tell him we remember the Avtorkanov brothers. Tell him the old debts come due. Tell him we're done asking permission. He stands, and I hear them walking away. Unhurried. Their footsteps fade into the night. I lie there in the alley, tasting copper, feeling the cold seep through my uniform. My phone is gone. My bag is gone. Everything is gone except the message they carved into my body. Eventually, I made myself move. Eventually, I stand. Eventually, I stumbled home. The subway ride is a blur of fluorescent lights and concerned looks I pretend not to see. A woman with kind eyes asks if I need help. I shake my head, mumble something about falling on ice, and she moves to a different car. Nobody wants to get involved. I don't blame them. By the time I reach our building, it's past 2 in the morning. I have to buzz the super because they took my keys along with everything else. He opens the door cursing about the hour, then stops mid-sentence when he sees my face. Jesus Christ, what? Fell on the subway stairs, I say. The lie comes easier the second time. I'm fine. I climb 3 flights using the railing to pull myself up. Every step sends fire through my ribs. The spare key is under the mat where Connor always leaves it despite my lectures about safety. Tonight, I'm grateful for his stubbornness. Inside, the apartment is quiet except for the TV's low murmur. Connor is asleep on the couch, his inhaler on the coffee table beside an empty cup of tea. I stand in the doorway watching him breathe, steady and even, and something in my chest loosens slightly. He's okay. Whatever happened to me, he's okay. In the bathroom, I face what they did. My left eye is swollen nearly shut, the skin around it already purple-black. A cut across my cheekbone that should probably be stitched. Split lip. Bruises blooming along my jaw. When I lift my shirt with shaking hands, more bruises paint my ribs in shades I don't have names for. I should go to the hospital. I should file a police report. I should do a lot of things. Instead, I turn the shower on hot and sit on the floor of the tub, still partially clothed, letting water and blood swirl together down the drain. I give myself 10 minutes to shake, to cry, to be terrified. Then I get up. The ice packs in the freezer are for Connor's bad days, but tonight I need them more. I press one to my eye, another to my ribs. In the medicine cabinet, I find his old prescription painkillers from last year's pneumonia. I take 3 when the label says 1. At 3 a.m., I walk 6 blocks to the all-night CVS. The cashier stares but doesn't ask. I buy concealer in the wrong shade because it's all they have, plus makeup wipes and ibuprofen and those gel masks for swelling. Back home, I practiced. Apply concealer over broken skin even though it burns. Practice holding myself so the rib damage doesn't show. Practice breathing shallowly. Practice my smile in the mirror until it looks almost convincing. I'm fine, I tell my reflection. The words taste like blood, but I say them again. I'm fine. By 9 a.m., I'm dressed for work. By 9:30, I'm walking back into the Red Veil like nothing happened. Almost like nothing happened. I arrive at 9:45, 15 minutes before I'm scheduled. The service entrance is locked, so I use my spare key, the one I keep at home for emergencies exactly like this. Inside, the Red Veil is dark and quiet, smelling faintly of last night's liquor and lemon cleaner. I move through opening procedures on autopilot. Turn on the lights. Check inventory. Start the espresso machine. Every movement is calculated to minimize the pain in my ribs. I've already taken 4 ibuprofen. In 2 hours, I can take 4 more. The sunglasses stay on despite the dim interior. My left eye is swollen worse overnight, and the concealer can only do so much. I tell myself if anyone asks, I'll say migraine. Light sensitivity. People believe what's convenient. I'm restocking the bar glasses when I hear footsteps on the stairs from the private offices above. Eric Sozanov doesn't usually arrive before noon. He certainly doesn't come down to the main floor during prep. Yet here he is, descending the wrought iron staircase in a charcoal suit that probably costs more than I make in 6 months, an espresso cup already in his hand. He stops at the bottom step. Look at me. Really looks. Riley. My name carries that slight Russian accent that makes it sound like a different word entirely. You're early. Yes, Mr. Sozanov. I keep my head angled, hair falling forward to shadow my face. Just getting things ready for opening. Take off the sunglasses. My hands are still on the glass I'm holding. I have a migraine. The light. It's dark in here. He sets his cup down with deliberate care. Take them off. Mr. Sozanov, I really think. Riley. His voice drops lower. Quieter. Somehow more commanding than if he'd shouted. Come here. It's not a request. I set down the glass and crossed the floor toward him, each step measured despite the way my ribs protest. I stop 6 feet away, a careful distance. Closer. I take 2 more steps. Then 1 more when he simply waits, patient as winter. He reaches out slowly, giving me time to step back. His fingers catch the edge of my sunglasses, gentle but insistent. I let him remove them because refusing seems more dangerous than compliance. The morning light from the tall windows falls across my face. Every bruise, every cut, every place they marked me. Eric's expression doesn't change immediately. The shift is subtle, a tightening along his jaw, a muscle jumping beneath his cheek. His eyes travel across my face with terrible focus, cataloging each injury with the precision of someone who's inflicted his share. He doesn't touch me. Just look. The silence stretches until my heart is hammering so hard I'm certain he can hear it. When he finally speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper. Somehow that's worse than shouting. Somehow that makes the air in the room change temperature. Who did this to you? Eric doesn't ask me to follow him upstairs. He simply turns and walks toward the staircase, the assumption of obedience absolute. I follow because refusing seems impossible, each step sending fresh pain through my ribs. His private office occupies the entire 2nd floor, all dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Diamond District. I've cleaned this room 100 times, but never while he was in it. Never while those ice-blue eyes were focused entirely on me. He gestures to a chair near his desk. Sit. I sit, because my legs are shaking and standing seems like it might be falling. He moves to the windows, hands clasped behind his back, and for a long moment says nothing. Just stands there silhouetted against the morning light, a man considering something weighty. When he turns back, his expression is carefully neutral. Professional. But his jaw is tight, and I can see the muscle jumping beneath skin. How long have you worked for me? He asks. 11 months, Mr. Sozanov. 11 months. He moves closer, stops 3 feet away. Close enough to examine, far enough to avoid touching. In that time, have I been unfair to you? No, sir. Have I asked you to do anything inappropriate? No. Then why? His voice drops lower. Are you lying to me now? My throat tightens. I'm not. You fell. It's not a question. His eyes travel across my face again, cataloging each injury with terrible precision. On subway stairs. That's what you want me to believe. Yes. Look at me, Riley. I force myself to meet his eyes. They're cold. Not angry. Something worse than angry. Something absolute. I have seen what falls look like, he says quietly. I have seen what accidents look like. And I have seen, many times, what men's fists look like when they connect with a woman's face. He pauses. This is not a fall. The words I've been holding back all morning threaten to spill out. I swallow them. Mr. Sozanov, I appreciate your concern, but don't. The single word cuts like a blade. He moves closer, and now there's barely 2 feet between us. Don't insult my intelligence with comfortable lies. Don't insult yourself by pretending this is acceptable. His accent thickens slightly, the way it does when he's barely controlling something. Someone put their hands on you. Someone marked you like this. Someone thought they could do this without consequence. The muscle in his jaw tightens again. Who? I don't want any trouble, I whisper. It's too late for that. The trouble has already arrived. His voice remains soft, but there's something underneath it now, something cold and sharp and absolutely certain. The only question is who pays for it. So I will ask you one more time, and I want the truth. He leans down slightly, bringing those winter eyes level with mine. Who did this to you? And God help me, I tell him. The words come out in fragments. 3 men. The alley. The way they knew exactly where I worked, exactly who I worked for. The message about the Avtorkanov brothers, about old debts, about territory and boundaries and things I don't understand. Eric listens without interrupting. Doesn't move. Don't blink. Just stands there absorbing every detail with the focus of a man committing something to permanent memory. When I finish, the silence stretches for 5 full seconds. Then he pulls out his phone. Alexei. His voice is calm. Conversational, even. Like he's ordering lunch instead of whatever this is. I need you at the Red Veil. Now. He pauses, listening. No. Cancel it. This is more important. He ends the call and immediately makes another. 3 men. Chechen, most likely. They attacked one of my employees last night in the alley behind the bar around 12:30. One was broad-shouldered, 40 or so, scarred knuckles. I had 2 others with him. His eyes find mine. Description. I tell him what I remember. The lean one. The one built like furniture. The leader's accent, his gray-threaded beard, the deliberate patience in how they moved. Eric repeats it all into the phone with perfect recall. I want names, addresses, and complete family trees by noon. Start with known Chechen enforcers operating in the Diamond District. Cross-reference anyone connected to the Avtorkanov situation. He pauses. Because they mentioned it specifically. Yes. All 3. By noon, Alexei. He ends the call and makes a third. Dmitri. Bring the car to the Red Veil. We're relocating Miss Doherty today. He glances at me. You have a brother? Yes, but... Address? Mr. Sozanov, I can't just. His eyes sharpen. Address, Riley. I give it to him because refusing seems impossible. He repeats it on the phone. Dmitri will meet you there in 1 hour. Pack what you need for 2 weeks. Be ready. I'm not leaving my apartment, I say when he hangs up. My voice comes out stronger than I feel. I can't afford to break my lease. Connor has school, has doctors. You're not breaking your lease. You're accepting temporary accommodation while this situation resolves itself. I can't afford temporary accommodation either. You're not paying for it. He moves to his desk, begins scrolling through his phone. You work for me. You were attacked because you work for me. That makes this my responsibility. Mr. Sozanov. Eric. He looks up. If we're going to have this argument, you should at least use my name. I can't just disappear. I have a life, I have bills. You already have disappeared. His voice is quiet again. Final. The moment they put their hands on you, the moment they used you to send me a message, you stopped being invisible. You think they won't come back? You think this was a one-time warning? The truth of his words settles like ice in my stomach. The penthouse occupies the entire 42nd floor of a building that looks like it was designed to intimidate. Glass and steel, and the kind of security that requires 3 separate checkpoints just to reach the elevator. Dmitri escorts us through each one with the efficiency of someone who's done this before. Connor hasn't said much since I collected him from our apartment 2 hours ago. Just packed his medications and his laptop while shaking hands while I threw clothes into a duffel bag and tried to explain something I don't fully understand myself. It's temporary, I kept saying. Just until things settle down. He didn't ask what things. The bruises on my face answered that question. The elevator opens directly into the penthouse. Not a hallway, not a landing, just straight into a space that costs more than I'll earn in my lifetime. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the Hudson, the view so vast it makes my chest tighten. Everything is sleek and modern and cold. Beautiful in the way museums are beautiful, untouchable, meant for looking rather than living. A woman in her 50s appears from somewhere and introduces herself as Katia, the housekeeper. She shows us to adjoining bedrooms on the east side, both larger than our entire Bronx apartment. Connor's has a view of the river. Mine overlooks the city, a sprawl of lights and steel that feels like another planet. You need anything, you ask, Katya says in accented English. Mr. Sozanov, he wants you to be comfortable. When she leaves, Connor sits on the edge of his bed and stares at nothing. He took his evening medications an hour ago, the ones that make him drowsy, make everything soft around the edges. Ray? His voice is small. Younger than 16. Are we safe here? I sit beside him, put my arm around shoulders that seem too thin. Yes. You promise. I don't know what to promise. Don't know the rules of this world I've been dragged into. But he's looking at me with those eyes that still trust me to have answers, so I lie. I promise. He leans against me, already half asleep. Your face looks bad. I know. Did they hurt you in other places too? Nothing that won't heal. I'm scared, he whispers. Me too, I whisper back. I get him settled in bed, make sure his inhaler is on the nightstand, set an alarm for his morning medications. When I emerge into the living room, Eric is standing at the windows, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Russian. The city glitters below him like a kingdom he's surveying. He glances over when I approach, says something final into the phone, and hangs up. Your brother settled? Yes. Good. He turns back to the window. You'll stay here until this is resolved. How long will that take? Not long. Something in his voice makes the words sound like a promise. Or a threat. I watch him silhouetted against the city, and Connor's question echoes in my head. Are we safe? I still don't know the answer. Alexei arrives at 8 p.m. with a tablet and the kind of expression that suggests he's delivered bad news before and knows how to do it efficiently. Eric meets him in the study, a room I'm not supposed to enter but can see into from where I'm sitting in the living room, pretending to read a book I'm not actually processing. They speak in Russian, voices low but urgent. Alexei swipes through images on the tablet. Eric studies each one with the focus of someone memorizing faces for a very specific purpose. After 20 minutes, Alexei leaves. Eric emerges from the study, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He pours himself vodka from a crystal decanter, drinks it in one swallow, then pours another. We have names, he says without looking at me. I set down the book. Who are they? Zahar Orlov. Chechen enforcer, works collections for Kadyrov's operation. Beslan Dudiev, smuggler, specializes in moving contraband through Port Newark. Magom Sultani, message carrier. He turns finally, and his eyes are cold. The one who gave you their message about the Evtorkanov brothers. My ribs ache with the memory. What happens now? By sunrise, this ends. What does that mean? He finishes his second vodka. It means you don't need to worry about them anymore. Eric. Get some sleep, Riley. Tomorrow you can go back to your life. He walks back into the study and closes the door. I don't sleep. Can't. I lie in a bed that costs more than my annual rent and stare at the ceiling while my mind races through possibilities I don't want to consider. Around midnight, I hear the front door open and close. Voices in the hallway, Eric's and several others I don't recognize. Then silence. At 2 a.m., I give up on sleep and move to the living room windows. The city sprawls below, millions of lights representing millions of lives. Somewhere out there, something is happening. Something Eric set in motion. I don't see the raids on 3 separate locations. Don't see Alexei's team moving with military precision. Don't see the interrogations conducted in rooms I'll never know exist. What I see, at 4:30 in the morning, is a glow on the horizon. Orange and angry, growing brighter. Fire, I realize. Something large burning in the distance. My phone, a new one Eric provided, buzzes with a news alert. Breaking, massive warehouse fire in Red Hook. Multiple casualties reported. Another alert follows minutes later. Developing, 3 bodies discovered in Chechen neighborhood. Police investigating possible gang violence. I'm still standing at the window when Eric returns at 5:45. His suit is different from yesterday's. Immaculate. Not a hair out of place. He meets my eyes across the room. It's done, he says simply. And I realize I'm terrified of him. Not for what he might do to me, but for what he just did for me. Dawn breaks red and gold over a city that will wake up different than it went to sleep. I stand at the windows watching the sunrise paint the Hudson while news alerts continue flooding my phone. Chechen crime syndicate dismantled in coordinated operation. Authorities investigating connection between warehouse fire and triple homicide. Sources describe military precision in overnight violence. Ruslan Kadyrov, alleged crime boss, among those killed in Red Hook blaze. Behind me, the television plays the same story on repeat. Aerial footage of the warehouse, just smoking ruins now. Reporters standing in front of police tape, speaking in hushed tones about gang warfare and territory disputes and escalation. They don't say Eric's name. They don't need to. Everyone who needs to know already knows. Connor is still asleep, his medications keeping him under. I'm grateful he's missing this. Grateful he won't see the news, won't connect the dots between my bruised face and the bodies wrapped in barbed wire that the morning shows are carefully not showing. I hear Eric before I see him. The elevator, the door, his footsteps across marble. When I turn, he's pouring vodka even though it's barely 6 a.m. He drinks it standing at the bar, then pours another and carries it to the windows. We stand there in silence, watching the city wake up. After a long moment, he speaks. Your debt is settled. I blink. What? The $53,000. I paid for it this morning. You'll receive confirmation from the creditors by end of business today. You can't. I didn't ask you to. You didn't ask me to do any of this. He turns to face me finally, and his expression is unreadable. But it's done regardless. Eric, you're free to leave whenever you want. Return to your apartment. Return to your life. Your job at the Red Veil is waiting if you want it, but you don't need it anymore. Not financially. He pauses. I've arranged a transfer to your account. Enough to cover 6 months of expenses while you decide what comes next. I should be relieved. Grateful. Instead, I feel unmoored, like he's cut strings I didn't know were holding me up. Why? I ask. Because you were attacked for working for me. Because I don't leave debts unpaid. His jaw tightens. Because I could and you couldn't, and sometimes that's reason enough. The news plays behind us. The bodies. The fire. The systematic destruction of everyone who touched me. Are you afraid of me? He asks quietly. I should say yes. Should run from this penthouse and this man, and this world where violence answers violence and debts are paid in blood. But I think about my apartment's thin walls. About walking home alone. About being invisible and unprotected and one bad night away from disaster. I think about Connor sleeping safely in the next room, his medications paid for, his future suddenly less precarious. I think about how Eric looked at my bruises yesterday. Not with pity. With fury on my behalf. Yes, I say honestly. But maybe not for the reasons you think. His expression shifts slightly. Not quite a smile, but something warming at the edges. Good, he says. Fear with understanding is respect. Fear without understanding is just terror. What happens now? That depends. He finishes his vodka. Do you want to be invisible again, Riley? The old me would say yes without hesitation. But the old me died in that alley. The woman standing here now isn't sure what she wants except that invisible suddenly feels like a cage she's been living in for too long. I don't know, I admit. Then stay, he says simply. Until you do.